Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're here to talk about the winners of the Set 14 Cross Spirits Emergency ban list. These are going to be the strategies that were not directly affected by the ban list, but are much better off because of the changes. So with that being said, guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways to do so down in the description as always. But today, guys, if you're looking for custom sleeves, playmats, any TCG accessories like that, even foil playmats, check out the link in the description to yourplaymat.com. It will get you 10% off your order. Their stuff's just so high quality, guys. I love their art sleeves. The number one thing about them is they don't peel, so you don't have to use oversleeves, and I personally hate shuffling oversleeve decks, so it's awesome for me. Again, 10% off your order in the description. Let's get into the video. So firstly, I want to talk about green, and the reason I want to talk about green is because historically, at least for like the Unison Warrior block, or for most of it, green has been the worst color in the game. I don't really think you can argue that. There was like a couple weeks where Gotenks was like the best deck in the game, and then that was pretty much it for green's reign. So I think green gets so much better going into this new format post emergency ban list for many reasons, but one of which being the nerfs to Dark Broly, where each of the Dark Broly 6-drops now have a black energy tied to their activate main, alongside having to warp 6 black battle cards. Dark Broly just always kind of dunked on green because they never cared about Dormant Potential Unleashed, because you can activate Dormant Potential and they'll just attack you with 230Ks. You're still taking 2 damage for the most part, so that didn't really matter. And even now with Boo, Unadulterated Malice, the Topo-like card for green, Dark Broly wouldn't even care about that because they still get a massive hand size the turn they awaken, and every card they pitch to the drop area is just more fuel for more Dark Brolys. So that's a really big thing that's going to allow green to kind of breathe a little bit. A lot of decks are able to breathe, and this is really a win for Rogue in general. I did also want to mention that here. Rogue and green pretty much being Rogue for most of its existence in this format gets a lot of breathing room because now they just have more turns to play the game, and they don't have to take automatic damage from free 30k battle cards, which is really, really nice. I think Majin Buu and King Cold have a lot of promise. King Cold is a really solid rogue deck going from last format, and Buu shows a lot more promise for a few reasons, one of which, again, being the Dark Broly nerfs. The other thing being that aggro in the form of like red spam aggro is not as crazy either. So again, these decks have more room to breathe, but also this deck can now kind of fill that role of like 15k spam aggression, whether you want to play mono green Buu or even a blue green Buu version where you can just spam a lot of the Boos that spam a lot of the tokens, get a lot of attacks in early, and the leader with its Senzu Bean type of effect, that second activate main there, is actually really, really strong. So I do think green has a lot more breathing room. I'm going to talk about hand control more specifically later on, but I think Buu, King Cold, Videl, maybe even Green Gotenks again can do very well in this new format post emergency ban list. Next, I want to talk about yellow, because obviously Mecha Frieza was banned on this list, and I kind of ended the loser video talking about that, and it segues us into talking about yellow. Obviously, I think a lot of you guys know that I'm a huge yellow player. I love playing Gohan Icarus. I love playing yellow decks in general, Hellboy, Yellow Jiren, if you guys have been on the Patreon. So I think yellow decks just get a lot more breathing room, again, because of the lack of aggression in the format, because of Dark Broly going away, because for all yellow decks besides Mecha Frieza, Dark Broly was also a rough matchup. Like, if you didn't have Vegeta, Using a Fury in your deck or in your hand at a certain point, it was a really, really tough matchup to win. You just couldn't deal with those 30k bodies putting so much pressure on you. But now with Mecha Frieza being gone and a lot of that aggro and Dark Broly being curbed, I think there are so many yellow decks worth exploring. I've already posted on the Patreon about Gohan Icarus, about Hellboy, and about Yellow Jiren, all of which I think are actually top deck prospects. And I even think a deck like Super 17 Emissary of Hell is even worth reconsidering now, because his boss monster is actually pretty good. It's immune to just about every counterplay in the game for the most part that's relevant, and it's pretty cheap. You have to wait till turn 4, but it only costs you 2 energy to play it, leaving your other 2 energy available. The boss monster is a triple strike 25k that can swing twice, as well as allow your leader to swing again, and your leader's auto is not once per turn to draw, so that's just a really, really cool combo there. And because so much of the free play has been curbed, reevaluating strategies that actually pay energy to play the game is actually worth looking at again. again. I know that sounds crazy, right? But it's a really, really cool thing that I think Super 17 and some other rogue yellow strategies have a shot now. I even think like Sin Shenron is worth revisiting as more of a control deck, because obviously the aggro version of Sin Shenron was absolutely neutered on the regular set 14 ban list. But I think Sin Shenron mid-range control is another deck that's worth reconsidering. And again, that deck is very energy hungry. You have to pay a lot of energy to get into your 9-drop Sin, get into your other Shenrons. But I think it's a deck that's really, really worth taking a look at once again. And I'm really excited because, again, I just love yellow. Next up, we're talking about Vegex and Gogeta Xeno. So the reason I want to talk about these guys is because, again, Dark Broly was nerfed, so now we're looking for the next best black deck, right? I think Vegex and Gogeta Xeno probably are going to take that role, and here's why. Some people were anticipating some sort of hit to the SS3 Gogeta thwarting the Dark Empire engine. I really don't think they were going to touch the TP card in any way, shape, or form. The card's just way too new to address it in any way, so I didn't really anticipate that happening. But now that Dark Broly again is nerfed, these decks can easily step up because they house the SS3 thwarting engine so well. Vegex, even though it was nerfed on the regular set 14 ban list to now mill 3 cards on both sides instead of 5, yes, that is somewhat of like a consistency and power hit because you're just not getting as much value off of your mills every turn. But I think Vegex is still going to be better than leaders like SS4 Goku, SS4 Gohan, and other burst leaders like that, because he continues to mill on his awakened side, and I don't think players realize how important that is. Once you awaken in a leader like SS4 Goku or SS4 Gohan and you stop milling, your time agent cards stop getting value. You can't mill cards like your Unison, you can't mill cards like Koitsukai, you can't mill cards like the Black Buu to let you draw. So just milling things like that is just so important in these black overwhelm strategies that, again, the awakened sides of those leaders just can't do that anymore. So Vegex, I think, is still going to be a really, really insane leader. Gogeta Xeno, though, it also just houses the thwarting the Empire engine super well. Obviously, every time you Union Fusion, you draw a card, and he mills, or warps rather, the top 5 of your deck every turn that you want to, so you're able to put your fusion pieces there. I just think the difference between these two decks is that Gogeta Xeno, believe it or not, will be a little bit more mid-rangey in my opinion, because you don't have as many free things as Vegex have, again, like the time agents, stuff like that. So I do think these are going to be the 2 top prospects for the top black deck in my opinion. Then we have blue, talking about Baby and Soul Striker specifically. Many people suspect these will be the best decks in the format because of all the changes, all the crazy aggro getting curbed. Blue just looks really, really strong. Blue Baby, there's not too much that most decks can do to stop it unless you tech certain cards, which granted, a lot of decks will do if they have to do it to beat Baby. But it's another case of like, oh, I have to play this card to beat this strategy, and that gets kind of annoying. But I do think there will be some things that check Blue Baby. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Soul Striker, I think, looks really, really strong. The deck draws an insane amount of cards. You can pretty safely get to turn 3 nowadays, which when you play your Unison, draw an insane amount at that point with your Awaken, with your Unison drawing, with your leader attacking, stuff like that. The Galactic Buster engine looks really good. The Blue-Yellow engine in Soul Striker looks really good. And the Skillless Gohan engine in Soul Striker all looks really good. Again, a lot of people are prospecting that these decks will be the top of the meta. I'm not necessarily 100% convinced yet, although I would not be surprised if we saw like week 1 of post-E-ban format these decks doing insane things. But yeah, these decks are looking really, really good as winners of the E-ban list. And finally, guys, I wanted to talk about hand control kind of on its own slide, even though it obviously lumps in there with green. But because of the success of blue, or at least the expected success of blue going into the post E-ban format, hand control just seems like it's in a really good spot. Like, yes, there are answers to hand control now. We have Deborah Ritual at Hand, which is a side deck card that any deck can play. And there's also now for, I believe it's yellow and green. I'm not sure if the other colors got one. I don't remember off the top of my head. But basically, they got free play versions of Deborah that if they're discarded, you play them, you draw a card. So there are more answers to hand control now. Like, you know, obviously Mercenary Tau is banned, but we've gotten more answers over time. But I think these decks are very well positioned, and I don't think hand control is going to be like all over the place. So the question is, like, do you actually side deck cards like Deborah? Do you actually side deck cards like that 1-drop Gohan and that 1-drop Vegeta that when you pitch them you draw a card? I don't know. I mean, that's going to be the deck building decision, right? And we're going to be looking at a really, really wide format. So can you really dedicate the side deck space to a deck you might play against one round in a tournament? But that logic can cause a hand control player to go really far in a tournament, if that kind of makes sense. So I think hand control is looking really, really good going into the next format. So guys, that's what I got for you today. I want to know in the comments below what you think. What sleeper picks are you looking at as winners of this new ban list? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.